the thing I want to start with before we get into assets and contracts and everything else that is exciting the market at the moment is perception. Okay, so they brought you in 2017. You're an ex-trader with Constellation, I think. You've worked in finance. You've also got Russell Banham and Neil Longfellow in there on the board to show some degree of independence, not independence, maybe that's the wrong word, some sort of unbiased governance, I think, right? Which, coming back to the state-owned component, there's a very adversarial language used by North American companies when they're talking about KazAtomProm and Russia, okay? And we saw that in the Section 232 petition, some of that language. And, do you think that is weighing heavily on the mind of the board? Do you think it affects decision making, or do you have to just get on with business?
Well, I would start even earlier than the IPO in looking at what KazAtomProm has been doing. Our former chairman of the board, John Dudas, who's an ex-BHP metals and mining executive, he came on board, I think, about 3 years before our IPO. So I think very early on there was a realization that trying to bring about a governance structure and an independence was very important. And in fact, if we go back to the creation of Samruk-Kazyna, which is the sovereign wealth fund of Kazakhstan, all the major national companies are all housed under this umbrella of Samruk-Kazyna. So, the National Oil Company, telecoms, postal service, rail, and KazAtomProm. So they were our 100% shareholder. And the mandate for Samruk was very simple, which is to create long-term sustainable value. So there was already a degree of separation between our company, KazAtomProm, and the government. And that was very deliberate. And the second part of that kind of long-term government thinking was trying to get as close to OECD standards as possible in pretty much everything that it does, from economy, healthcare, education. So a big part of that was reducing the role of government in the economy. And the privatization really came from that. So KazAtomProm was the first company to IPO within the Samruk portfolio, and obviously Samruk have very ambitious plans to privatize many of the other companies within the portfolio. And it's a very deliberate government policy to reduce its role. So now, essentially, Samruk has gone from being 100% shareholder to being 75% shareholder. And really the governance structure very much predated even the discussions around the IPO, which is atypical. Very often when you're getting a government company ready for IPO, suddenly you've got a renter board that pops out of nowhere. But the guys on our board, the independent non-executive directors, are all industry guys. They have really strong track records in our sector, or in governance around accounting and finance and so on. And they've brought a huge amount. So I would say there's a clear distinction, and I think it's evident in the relationship that we have with our other investors, that really we cannot give priority to our major shareholder, and our investors are very comfortable with that. In terms of the role and the relationship with Russia, look, I think Rosatom is a partner of ours, a JV partner of ours. If you look at our production, we have 13 mining companies. 3 are 100% owned subsidiaries. The other 10 are joint ventures. So we have a joint venture with the Canadians, with Chemico, with the French, Orano. We have 2 joint ventures with Japanese consortium, which include a number of utilities, one led by Sumitomo, the other one by Marubeni. We have a joint venture with the Chinese, CGN. So Rosatom is clearly an important joint venture partner for us. but we have a strategy which is very focused on KazAtomProm and Kazakhstan's interests, and looking at the supply-demand picture in the market. And I think the scaremongering that some people have been trying to associate Kazakhstan or put it within the sphere of influence of Russia, I think it's a kind of a naive approach.
Yeah, I mean, and there has been a lot of that narrative in the market, because it's also goes to the same conversations go to your controlling price in the market, trying to put people out of business. But I'm reading your literature, and it says you're a commercial enterprise now. You're not a state-owned operation, although you are partially listed. I mean, again, is it the same answer? It's a sort of naive outlook to think that you would want to operate at suboptimal levels?
Yeah, I think that the industry hasn't done itself any kindness by ignoring market fundamentals, and we've all paid the price of it. And it really talks to the sustainability of the industry overall, that we would have allowed prices to fall to levels where even the largest and lowest cost producer is struggling to cover their costs. And if you look at the demand growth that we're seeing in the market over the next 10 years, it is absolutely critical not only that some of the mothballed production come back into the market to fill that gap between supply and demand, but also that new production come online. And right now, the price signals, unfortunately, aren't there to incentivize that new build, or even really bringing back very quality tier one assets to the market. So the risk is that, and we've seen it in many other commodities, in electricity and coal and iron ore, that everybody knows that we need material in the future, but the price today doesn't incentivize the investment that's required to get us there.